All right, looks like we're live. This is it, and we don't have the sound set up yet, but you guys can generally hear it. Let's see what we got.
That's true. Okay, right. Let's just get this started.
So here's to Helium 2022.
Yeah.
Woo! Right on.
Cheers.
Indeed. The mouth-numbing drink.
Get ready.
Oh, that is very weird.
All right.
It is different, right?
Woo!
Are you supposed to swish it around or just move it?
Wait, we can finish
Cool.
afterwards.
Let's go, guys. All right. So I'm going to get everybody mic'd up. We'll have a decent sound once we do. I may not be able to talk for a second.
Oh, yeah.
That is a little lingering, huh?
Yeah,
The warning is a warning, but it doesn't have the same impact as the actual experience.
That's what I wanted to try. Like, it's something from Brazil that's different.
Very cool. So we'll have everyone kind of bear with us a little bit.
Is this fan loud, Nick?
What's that?
Is this fan loud?
I don't know. Do you want to see if that fan works?
You know why? Just give it a little bit, right? Because it's kind of interesting.
Some writing going on.
Well, you're setting expectations.
Yeah, sorry.
All right. So for you guys here, the chat is right here, and we are live. So you can see kind of what everybody's saying and see the picture.
Okay.
Hi, everybody.
There's the camera, and then as I get these microphones set up
the microphone correctly.
There'll be a little bit
Can you guys
better.
hear me?
They should be able to hear you guys okay. Can you guys hear us? You guys ever do this?
Yeah. Mic check.
Mic check, yeah.
I mean, I'm seeing it come through here.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's good.
yeah, definitely.
So that should be from that microphone. But yeah, you guys are just going to bear with us as we figure out the YouTubes. And then for the rest of this, so while I'm setting this up, do you want to start off with what you're expecting out of Helium for the next 4 days? Like, what are you kind of expecting to learn? What are you expecting to see? What are you psyched about?
Yeah, I mean, you can start. I can do like.
All right. The biggest thing is just connecting with everybody that we've been building this network with in real life, right? It's all been Discord, it's been video chats, and very sporadic meetings here and there. But finally meeting everybody face to face, other builders, other people building companies and the network and everything is probably the most exciting piece of being there.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, I've been in crypto, not super active, but in crypto since 2013. And Helium was the first project that really blew my mind. In my electrical engineering side of things also. And throughout the last 2 years, we met you guys and spent so much time talking and almost became friends. You know, I mean, almost no, we did become friends, but during COVID times, there was no time to actually get together and meet.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was, as soon as I saw that consensus, the Helium House was happening, I was like, no matter what happened, I'm going to be there because it's going to be super cool to finally meet all these people that we've been in touch 24/7. And it's been so cool. We landed last night after a 20-hour flight, and it's already been super cool. And it's just starting, right? Because then there's all the other events.
Yeah.
Whoever is not here, just keep an eye on Twitter or whatever is happening on social media because I think a lot of things are going to come. I have no idea what Helium is going to show in the Helium House as well.
Yeah, what they're going to unveil.
Yeah,
We
Travis just
guess,
in the
right?
corner just pretending that he's not there.
Yeah.
Big smiles ear to ear, but no.
Travis knows.
Yeah.
He knows the deal.
So definitely catch the live stream because I know that Helium House is being streamed live.
Yep.
So if you can't be there, I know a lot of people are not able to make it. So
To the YouTube channel.
yes, the YouTube
To
channel.
the
live
Helium YouTube channel.
Yes.
Nice.
Cool. So I think you guys can hear everybody here. Yeah, I wish you guys were here too. So we got a couple things to hit for sure. One of which is the Hit 51 thing.
Mm-hmm.
And just helping people kind of understand that, and also what you guys think of it, because we're all kind of fairly experienced players in the Helium game, and so thinking about are you psyched on it? Do you think it's going to be good, bad, ugly, indifferent, make you money, cost you money?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you come down on that?
I'm excited. I think it's a natural way of going. It scares me a little bit in terms of the technicalities because I'm building Hotspot, and then we need to always build whatever Helium decide to throw at the network.
Yep.
So we always need to keep they changed the whole blockchain. Okay, let's rebuild the whole thing together, right?
Yep.
But I think this Omni protocol idea is it's the future.
There's no other way to do it, right?
Yeah.
That's the piece is that if you're going to add 5G into it, I don't think we can add 5G and just do it on HNT alone as the same token. right? Because it eats the data's lunch or LoRa data's lunch.
Yeah, you can't compare data credit usage on LoRa and 5G. Otherwise, it'd be totally different.
Yeah.
But not only 5G as well. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, they're right. It's not only 5G. It's what they call the network of networks. And as it builds out, there will be more communities that will help build the Helium ecosystem as a whole. And a lot of people's concerns is, so what about the initial community of LoRaWAN and stuff like that? And, even though the build out and the support from the community managers is around 51 and the 5G stuff, a lot of behind the scenes stuff is still how bringing use cases and supporting low power wide area network use cases.
Yeah,
So
it's got to get used. I met with the guy from GeoNet, and he's like, I don't understand why LoRaWAN's not being used yet.
Yeah.
Right on the Helium side, because it's the largest contiguous wireless network in the world. If I'm repeating the party line correctly.
yeah, and it's great too, right? Because a lot of the use cases may be to everybody else boring stuff.
Yep.
But there's also really interesting stuff that's going to be using it. Other projects.
That's right, because you and I have been working on like the farmer stuff in San Diego.
Yes.
There's the orchid farmer. I don't know if that's gone anywhere for you yet. We just met this dude the other
That's
day.
pretty cool.
Yeah. So smart agriculture is kind of a perfect use case, but
Yep.
I'm even talking about going beyond that, like hive mappers, right?
Yep.
They are projects like these that can utilize a network that didn't exist before, that they couldn't have used.
Yeah.
Like any general stuff. So supporting the use of the Helium network is what I'm seeing across a lot of sub-communities within our community, right? And other companies building on it.
Yeah.
And I think people forget that there's a lot of people still building on it, and they just don't talk about it as much. So we definitely want to see more projects that people are doing.
Also, hardware is hard. So, and it takes much more time than software to deploy. So a lot of companies, let's say Helium, the beginning of the year, last year, there was like nothing. It was all grass. Now the whole world is covered, but then it takes 2 years to release like a hardware product. Because, all the iterations takes time. You have the PCB development, you have to solder, debug, everything is much slower.
Yep.
So I think it's going to get to a point that's going to be an explosion of usage in the network in the next couple of years because of this delay. Software is much easier. You just press a button to deploy 1,000 like virtual machines. You guys know it, right? Like hardware it's a bit more complicated.
Yeah, that begs the question, like, what's next for you with Hotspot? Right, because you had like this massive amount of growth, and now we're all seeing it. Like, I don't think you guys are seeing as many new onboarded customers every month.
We're still growing.
We're still growing.
Yeah, a lot. Like, let's
That's
say
amazing.
we're half the amount per day, but it's still getting like 500, 600 new users a day.
Okay, so new users a day, but it's slowing down from where it was.
Yeah, I mean, you got to pick, like November was like 2,000, 1,000 users a day. And now it's around like 400 to 600. Sometimes there's spikes. But generally, like, means the network is not stopping.
Right.
We still getting new customers because we are focusing on a lot of enterprise users now.
Yeah.
Because that those
That's
are the
right.
ones deploying like thousands of hotspots.
And
we have people using like Hotspot to simulate 10,000 locations around the world.
Yep.
South America, like we just came from Brazil.
That's right.
And we've been talking with a lot of telco companies there.
Yep.
And the map is empty,
Yep.
but there's a massive amount of potential, like farms, like everything.
So it's shifting from kind of users, mom and pops.
Yeah, exactly. Because, I mean, those people are like early on, let's say,
Yep.
and they managed to make some money, whatever. But the network is not going to stop, and it's going to continue to grow. There's the need for the people to use the network for like you said, like IoT is not going anywhere. So I think people just need to think long term.
Yeah.
In the terms of like deploying hotspots and not thinking about I want to buy my Lambo tomorrow.
Yeah. The Lambos aren't coming anytime
Yeah, but Helium is a long term project, and we just gotta keep pushing. And
Yeah, we noticed that too. We had a customer that was looking to get support from us to deploy tracking solutions.
Yep.
And we showed them that it works, but it's not the hardware that isn't lacking. It's the coverage in their area. And so they actually had to pivot back to deploying more infrastructure in that space. And we're seeing a lot more of that. Is a lot of people were quick to jump to deploying a solution, and they realized that they did need more coverage in certain areas. there's certain areas that are really dense and there's certain areas that are very sparse. And then the Helium Explorer map can be a little deceiving because it might show a hotspot in the hex, but the coverage doesn't actually cover that whole hex.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah. So it's depending on where you are, if you're on the other side of a hill.
And they could be in a basement.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah,
Yep.
that's the hard part of like even doing simulations as well.
Yeah.
Because like in Hotspot we did something called we call it super simulation,
Mm-hmm.
which is we calculate line of sight between all the hotspots in like a 100-kilometer radius.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, we can't guarantee if the hotspot is like on the tower or it's like in someone's basement.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, so I think mapping is important,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of projects that are tied into mapping and can do two things at once, which is mapping and provide a service, we'll start seeing a lot more.
More of that stuff, yeah.
And that will help verify where the good coverage is because, people are looking to use the network. And, a lot of us work together as a community and collaborate a lot. And this is that's what we see.
Because there's so much space. I saw in the chat one of the guys was saying, hey, should I cancel? I'm thinking long term, I could cancel my hotspot orders. Like, you're a hotspot seller, a vendor. Yeah. Do you think a bunch of people are going to cancel their hotspot orders? Where do you think that is? Because you're one of the main distributors in the U.S.
Yeah, we do see some, but then we also see others who are getting involved in it.
Yep.
If you're in the ethos of, I want to make quick money, then this is not for you, right?
Right.
The TikTok, quit your job type of stuff is long gone.
Yep. It was great while it lasted.
Yeah, and but it's not sustainable,
right?
So there is still money to be made.
Yep.
It's more passive, right? So people get into Ethereum mining, Bitcoin mining, but if you buy one miner, you're not going to get rich off it. It's passive income. It'll help you go to the bar at once a week or something like that, or maybe more.
Yeah.
But
depending on your bar tab.
Yeah. But you get one hotspot, and it's almost like a gateway drug into everything else.
Yeah.
What I notice is a lot of people who get one in, they start learning and getting into it, and then they get introduced to this whole world of everything else that Helium is going to just eat up.
Yep.
And that's just where we're at right now.
Yeah, yeah. Neil, I see you just came on the chat. I'm also gutted you're not here.
Yeah.
There you go.
I wish you were, buddy. But those passports, they stop international traffic.
Next time.
Yeah. Let's see. So we got a couple folks talking about building on the network. Approximate price range for light hotspots in the beginning. You might be the best person to answer that. I'm going to make some guesses.
So there's going to be fundamental hardware costs, and there's always going to be the onboarding and location switching costs.
Yep.
So the idea of like $100 hotspot is, you can use the data-only gateways as a kind of a gauge.
Yep.
And then you add all the other blockchain costs on top of that, and that will probably be like your lowest piece. And there's still issues with like some components and stuff like that, but I think we're kind of starting to see that price range around this market price right now.
Which is $200, $300?
I'm gonna think it's between $250 to $300.
So I've seen stuff in the 150s.
We haven't gotten any hard prices from anybody yet.
Okay.
Because they're still waiting for the final software to be finished, right?
Yep.
So
Max from People Antenna coming on. See, is this Italian? The 𝗱𝗲𝗀𝗀? Anyone speak that?
Scappare da casa.
Yeah.
Scappare. It's like to get out.
Okay, get out of the house. Yeah. And then he put this 𝗱𝗀𝗀𝗀.
Perché non vi separate? Why are you guys not separated? Yeah. I think my Italian's been very...
my Italian's non-existent, so sorry, Pinocchio. So this hyperrem, this question here, they should have said this was coming a long time ago so people would not have spent their hard-earned money. Dude, this is this tough thing, right? Is all of these crypto blockchain projects is totally buyer beware. And Helium is no different. And so this was a piece where if you had looked at the math from the get-go, it was pretty clear as the network grew, you were going to make less and less HNT. Now, I don't think any of us thought it was going to grow this fast. I sure didn't think it was going to grow this fast. But it's also not a thing where it was like a hidden piece.
Yeah, they did project that it was growing at an exponential rate. But the 5G and those other pieces, I think they were communicated in a certain way, but no one actually really understood what it was. Because I think even as a community who were kind of building these pieces out, we were still figuring it out, right? I'm not sure that's what he was kind of alluding to, or if it's just how fast the network grew.
Yep.
But it's just simple math. If there's a million gateways and there's a fixed amount of HNT, that's just what it's going to be.
It's just math, yeah. That's what it comes down to. But it's tough. I mean, you get into like a new project and I'm with this geode net. It's like shooting out 2 geodes an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned from Helium, like, don't walk around my neighborhood calculating my future gains. Just like be glad that they're here now and know that as more people are going to come on, it's going to drop down. The same thing with Helium. As more people come on, it's going to continue to drop.
Yeah, I mean, for the people who also want to turn off their hotspots, or just giving more rewards for the people that are around you. Right?
It's a crazy thing. I think it's more like it's a funny joke at this point and not real.
We
Good.
we definitely see more people around looking to build on the network, and that's where we shift pretty much all of our attention to and focus on.
Mm-hmm.
And so we do have customers who are like, you know what, I'm not earning anything. If you want to cancel your order, that's what they want to do. I'm not here to convince them otherwise because I can't.
I thought you were the devil, dude. I thought you were living on some like island in Tahiti, just crushing it. No, you're here in Austin.
I'm here building with you guys. So.
I love it. Plus Uno, would Parley Labs build projects for customers if a need is identified and put into business? Not just like bump set. And
So short answer, yes. Long answer is if it makes sense. If not, we can actually connect you with the people who might be able to do that, right?
Yep.
We're not a do-all everything, but this community is small, and we're definitely here to help support you and help you grow. We've helped businesses go to market faster with getting the hardware, getting access to things that aren't on our site, sourcing, but also just giving them advice on, don't do this, don't do that. Talk to Nick or, like figure out your business solution first before you go try spending a lot of money on building something.
I'm always getting ready to call you 𝗱𝗲. It's like, no, it's Daniel.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think education is the best thing you can do before just throwing a bunch of money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, even as we started, we bought, I think, I remember, like 3 or 4 OG hotspots in like late 2020. And then like that we validated the whole project. And okay, that's great. Let's just go buy a bunch of racks.
I think that's important, right? You got to validate the assumptions that you have before you jump in, and we do that a lot before. And when I work with Nick on certain ideas and concepts, like, this would be a great idea, and we both go like, yeah, we could do this, and then the next thing was like, okay, let's go talk to this guy that we're thinking this is a great idea to, and ask him and talk to him about it, right?
It's totally different.
Instantly, before you build anything, you get an idea of this is worth putting effort into or not.
And education. Like I said, we, like in Hotspot, we have this little forum that people can get in touch with us to like have like one-on-one conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like 2 weeks ago, we had this call with someone in Florida that had 300 Draginos, which is data-only hotspots, and they didn't realize that they would only make money from data transfer.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, okay, what do we do now? I was like, sorry.
Find a place that needs data.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I say. Like maybe go to like I don't know, like somewhere they have a lot of sensors and like
great devices.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, we have some as well. We have some that we use as like light hotspots. Yeah. One of our first hotspots were like we'd say light hotspots because of like a Raspberry Pi Zero. And it works pretty well.
Yeah.
But then of course you need to have the miner software somewhere else.
Yeah. I've run a couple like that. You showed me how to do that. Literally. You were one of my first intros to Helium. I'm seeing tech services. What changes to the Helium project require community approval and which do not? I don't know if there's no written documentation that I'm looking at Travis. He's behind the camera. If you want to sit down and jump in.
There aren't really rules per se. People are like, is this against the rules? Well,
like nobody knows. And I think this goes to a point that I think we're going to see maybe bubble out of this conference is that Helium at this point may be too decentralized to move really quickly, right? Where we've got a couple things. We've got this gaming issue. We just went through this Panther hearing. I don't know if the video is out, but I'm pretty sure the decision is out, which is to at least temporarily suspend their key until we figure out a way to, how do we onboard people who are good actors and stop bad actors from being onboarded? And there's no good options. It's not like there's 2 great options and we're doing the wrong one as the MCC, where there's no good options. Like you either turn you either stop new hotspots being onboarded and stop everyone, or you let everyone be onboarded. Like there's no filter to say, hey, these guys look like they're bad actors, we're going to turn them off. There's no great way to do that right now. And if Helium kind of /Nova were more centralized and the community was behind that more centralized piece, we'd be like, okay, well, let's go hunt those guys down and get it done. But at the core of this project, and Travis, I won't make you comment on this, but I think the core of this project is like the decentralization piece, and that this is a decentralized product or project.
I think absolutely so.
Yeah, like that's the ethos of the project itself. So when it goes back to like what changes to Helium, require community improvement, what don't, like nobody really knows.
And sometimes do you need a stopgap? I mean, which we've seen
Yep.
and put into place. I think sometimes it is necessary, around the birth of the network. And,
Yep.
In early stages.
Yeah, like the DIY time, like was like a very exciting time, but like we understood that a lot of people got upset. I mean, we were a little bit sad because we ordered like a bunch of, not a bunch, like a few Draginos at the time, but like we totally understood that it's not the way to go. And I can't swear, but it's a really hard project, the whole Helium, because it goes into a lot of different areas, like blockchain, electronics, hardware, physics. And all of them is like the hardest topic that you can choose, and one of the hardest topics in electronics is RF, like blockchain development, decentralization, P2P networks. It's just it's hard.
They're asking you, Travis, if he made it to Austin. Oh, he's right here.
You come say hi, man.
He's right here. I'll get him.
The famous Travis.
Yeah, the mighty T.
Hello.
There you go.
Yeah, I'll get you a little mic and see if I can.
All right.
Make the sound okay. At some point, I'll try and turn the main mic down because I know that sound is not that great. But yeah, we're all here. Buzzer, the bolt cutters, I've banned you, dude. You're just swearing and not contributing to the conversation. So if you want to be polite, that's cool. If you're not, you're out. Yeah, so it's like as a business, we need some predictability. So there's a bunch of questions about the update piece. Like when is this update going to be over? And by update, I think they're talking about the transition to
Light hotspots.
Light hotspots, yeah. And I'm seeing some questions about who are these three guys? Who are these guys talking about Helium as if they know what's going on?
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
Never heard of Helium.
Yeah. I thought we were somewhere else.
Yeah.
Florida?
Yeah, so we can do a quick reset. So Brian runs Parley Labs. Daniel helps run Hotspot. I help people with Helium, and Travis works for Nova. So a reasonable amount of experience in the room here.
Just the
knows some
nerds.
things. Yeah. Nerds and the rest of us trying to keep up. Okay, so I think that answers Eduardo's questions.
As far as the time scale, though,
Yep.
on when we're going to see stabilization on, I think that in the process of light hotspots, a lot of other things have come to the surface and are being dealt with. I think that's positive for the network. I know people hate it when I say soon.
Hashtag.
Yeah, but it is something that we're going to see benefit from it, in the long run. So please be patient.
We're early. Can't forget that. If you go to the Helium website, there's like a 50-year plan, right? And that was just when there was only LoRa in that. So.
Yeah, from our perspective, in those running validators, there's a lot of things that, like you said, surface that fix improvement and optimization and stuff like that. So, the Nova team and community members have actually been doing a really great job of finding these things out that make the network more stable, get to these big milestones that the Helium Foundation and Nova have. And yeah, it does push, light hotspot hardware out a little bit, but, there's still other hardware and gateways, and we do have companies that just deploy data-only gateways because they don't want to deal with certain pieces. And they have their uses. So depending on what user you are, a lot of those people they're not stopping deploying, waiting for that.
Right.
And people are sending data over the network and using it daily.
And that's been rather stable, data transmission across the network throughout this process. And I came into this whole project from the IoT direction, rather than the the crypto side of things. I've learned a lot, since then. But we used to have to pay for our hotspots and not expect them to pay us back, And
the Things Network. Oops.
Here comes my bride, I think.
And I worked extensively with the Things Network and in the Houston area.
Yeah.
And
see if I can make it to the door.
It was for a point. I really could not give gateways away.
Yeah.
I was like, look, I will go to your house. I will install an antenna and give you a gateway.
Yeah.
And just to build up coverage in Houston, and people weren't biting on it.
That was my first contact with LoRa in Berlin, 2015. I had the Things Network,
Yeah.
Gladly I had that hardware because that was my first light hotspot.
Oh, nice.
Not light hotspot, like DIY hotspot.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine too. With pi's and pi zeros and threes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, I haven't paid attention to the ETL lately. I'm seeing a question about data credit burn and tracking. Is that the last time I looked, you could see that on, at least, was it heliumanalytics.io? Are you guys using that, or are you just using
We use the DY.
the DY ETL? Is that ups?
Yeah, it
You're
is.
running that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I ran the ETL. We had some hiccups in it, like couple months ago, but things are stable now.
Yeah.
And then Helium Analytics is also an amazing project.
Oh yeah, I love that one.
Yeah. Big Dave's gonna be
He's here
tomorrow, I think.
I thought he was supposed to be here today, but I guess
you're drinking.
you guys are drinking. All right.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Lee's in the house.
Thank you.
Let's see. I saw something. So we talked about data credit track. I'm just going back through the notes, folks, and trying to get. Yeah, Doe's psyched on multi-protocol. We talked a little bit about that earlier. Devo, I think that's one of the giant questions at this conference that's going to get addressed a little bit more. Is like, how is that thing going to get rolled out? And really, like, the piece is like, how do we make it so we look in the future? If there's a 50-year timeline, how do we make it so we can easily add 5G and Wi-Fi and this VPN stuff and whatever else, and whatever other network comes out and satellite, and plan for that now rather than kludging along and then eventually making a last-minute change?
It's $1 billion question.
Yeah. So I mean, that's what 51 is attempting to answer. But when you guys are watching this and you're kind of wondering what's going on, is the network broken? And especially we saw over the last weekend, there's a couple YouTubers who kind of read the Hit 51 blog post and didn't interpret it correctly. There's a bunch of FUD around that. Was just, no, you got a bunch of super smart people on those hips putting them together and doing the best they can. And there's not going to be this clear, perfect answer. It's going to be, hey, this appears to be the best path.
And it's not that Helium is going to build all those networks out, right? It's groups that are already doing similar things that can now take what they're doing and use the Helium infrastructure to deploy what they're trying to do. So 5G, so there's going to be a big change to that infrastructure, right? And that infrastructure is then going to enable these other networks to go onto it. So that doesn't mean this team is already so busy they can't go do everything else. There's just a change into the infrastructure that will enable this growth into networks that will go onto the network.
And there are other teams that are much more experienced with these other protocols.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that's critical to think about here. One question I got to throw out here. As far as the calculations determining, I guess, kind of the ratios between protocols, have you seen a good rundown on that?
I think Max has one. Max of People was explaining it to me the other day, but
Okay.
I don't know. Do you guys have anything?
No, not yet.
Not off the top of my head. I think it used to be really complex based on usage and some other things, and I think they simplified it significantly, right? Removes complexity and make things work better.
Yep.
And I think it's much more less challenging to actually deploy and code from what I hear. I say less challenging, but it's not going to be easy.
It's like Hit 51. I had to read it twice to read because it's like, am I reading this correctly? It's like it adds a lot of complexity, but it's a very complex project anyway. But I'm very excited about the future on that, especially if they manage to, I don't know, I'm excited or scared if they change into a different protocol, a different blockchain.
Yep.
That means that we're going to have to rewrite a lot of our software as well. But it's just part of growth, I think. So whatever happens, we're going to be there.
Awesome.
Carrying the flag.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Excellent.
figuring it out, for sure.
Like we've been doing since the beginning, I guess.
Matt Diffie, New Mexico cattle project incoming. I mean, that's total psyched. Love to see that stuff. And I think it's easy to overlook for me, the tracking side, because it's so easy.
Yeah.
And try to go find something more difficult. But I think maybe I should just dial it back and just keep on tracking. Cause
Tracking is the hello world of IoT, I guess.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, totally. It's the intro because it's the easiest piece to.
Well, but it touches a lot of points,
Yeah.
So
I think, like I said, it's all the boring applications that benefit the most.
Yeah.
And will drive the most usage. And then there's consumer stuff, but that, like you said, it's going to take time to build those things.
Yeah.
But people like novel stuff too. So
Yeah.
it's just, we want to hear what everybody else is building. If you need help, there's a lot of people in the community that can definitely help you get off the ground. There's a lot of local people who are looking to help in their regions. So there's a lot of resources. That's the great thing.
And you mentioned smart ag earlier. There's huge interest.
Yeah.
And I think that LoRaWAN, as a technology, is very, very appropriate for smart ag uses.
Yeah, but the thing is, a lot of our customers they don't see that piece of it, so they don't tie usage there with the hotspot that they deployed in the city home or something like that.
Yep.
So there's a little bit of education, and there's a lot of community projects coming up that we're looking to support because like Neil's Track Pack app, right?
You guys are selling that, right?
We will. We haven't.
Maybe not. I don't want to.
We will, right? But we're here to support the community, right?
Yep.
Because we need more of that.
And you've got a bunch of the TrackPack.io trackers, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
got a couple, but
I miss like playing with electronics for the past like few months, being like software all the time. But one thing that I would just like to say is like sometimes people forget that Helium is built a network to be used and not just to be mined and make money off.
right.
Because like, why am I gonna put this hotspot on if they can't, talk with other hotspots and make a bunch of HNT? Actually, you're already making some money, but of course you're building this insane network that's never existed, never grew this fast. Like we're talking about the Things network. The Things network is like, and Helium was like,
yeah.
I remember like actually talking to Travis, 2020, and the first time I realized Helium was okay. Like okay, TTN may have some hard time in the future without this. Great project, by the way. Nothing against it.
Well, and what's wild, I think, is in a lot of areas, you don't even have to worry about hotspots. You don't have to set up your own infrastructure. You can really just kind of roll out a solution, sensor-based solution,
Yep.
and it works because you have enough, coverage.
Pretty much almost every major metropolitan
Exactly, man.
in the world. I say this almost, yeah.
Yep.
You can deploy a solution without having to set up the infrastructure at pennies a month.
So let's dig into that because I think that is a way forward for success in Helium, but that's also a super complex thing for a lot of people, right? If putting up a hotspot is one thing, that's pretty easy. You plug it into an Ethernet cable and a power source and you're good. But deploying a solution is a lot of different things. You got to find a problem to solve. You got to find the right hardware to solve it. You've got to get the data from that hardware through console into an integration and then displaying something. Like all this sounds pretty and is pretty complicated and complex. So if you guys had, you're on the plane and someone asks you like, oh, what are you going out here for Helium? And like, oh, how do I use that after they understand it? Where would you guys start them if they're like, oh, I'm young and entrepreneurial or old and entrepreneurial and I want to start a business? Where would be the first places you start? And I don't think there's...
Buy a tracker and set it up.
Just buy the trackers for the first.
I think like the Hello World kind of thing. So that up to the time that you have the tracker actually sending data to your server, whatever.
Yep.
You're gonna learn so much that next time that you need to do something a little bit more complicated, you're already gonna know how to do it because you need on board and everything.
Yeah.
I usually ask them what industry they're in, right? Because then I try to relate it to that industry. So if they're
What they're going to do, yeah.
I travel a lot. Okay, well here's a tracker that might track your suitcase if it gets lost or something like that, right? And because not everybody wants to build something on the network, and we have to accept that. So we have to show to them the things about what other people are building on the network, and giving them something they can just open and use. And we see a lot of that actually right now in the community. There's a lot of people building on the network and doing a lot of things. It just takes time to build stuff.
But
Helium has shown us that you can build fast, but not everybody builds as fast as.
Yeah, but think of the fact that you don't need to go and talk to AT&T or T-Mobile to get an NB-IoT contract.
Yeah.
Pay monthly plus subscription plus data. You don't have to ask permission to anybody to do anything.
Yeah, you just go on to all these people who are offering console.
Yeah.
And you set it up, and you get going right away.
That's interesting because you don't, as a normal user, you don't tend to think of all that extra crap. But if you go out and buy a tracker at Walmart, right, you're gonna have to sign up for their app. You're gonna have to do the same steps, and it's probably gonna cost you much more money than if you do the same thing with Helium. So what I'm hearing is like the start point, and I think this is a good one, is to buy a sensor, any sensor, probably a tracker because it is likely to be useful, and get that sensor onto the network and go through the obstacles and hurdles and challenges of that whole piece, and then figure out from there where you want to go.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of sensors, like stuff for people who care about gardening and stuff like that. There's like soil moisture sensor that's kind of go-to for that. There's door sensors if you want to make sure your garage is open or closed and you don't have Wi-Fi there. And
this is third-party off the shelf.
Yeah, these are all basic stuff.
Yeah.
They're really affordable. You can buy them anywhere. You can get them at our store, somebody else's store. A lot of community members have stuff, so they're very, very accessible.
Yeah, we tracked our flight here with an oyster. There's an oyster in our little bag. Because I was like, they're not going to lose my bag. I'm not going to let that happen.
Nice.
That's awesome.
I need all this stuff.
Yeah.
So Network Bits is asking how accurate the tracking devices are. And it seems like it's dependent on how many gateways there are to relay that signal.
No.
There's two things. Accuracy, right? There's accuracy of the GPS itself. And then there's if there's good coverage to send that.
Right.
Yeah. So a lot of them use U-blocks.
Yeah, they use the same chip in a lot of them.
Yeah, and so if you have those ceramic, antennas on them, they work well.
You have various accuracy levels because some manufacturers, if you use their platform, will also be able to track indoor and outdoor because of Wi-Fi and stuff like that.
Right.
So you can go as really basic and have really good accuracy on a consumer level. These really small trackers, and they're actually comparable to any other consumer out there. The only thing different is just what they use to send the data back.
Right.
Whether it's cellular, Wi-Fi, or helium.
Right, so they're pulling in GPS, like what we would think of as GPS, which is technically GNSS data.
Mm-hmm.
And that is within 3 to 8 meters accuracy, something like that, like the regular GPS you buy off the shelf. There's other projects out there. There's foam, there's GeoNet that are doing the sub-meter, centimeter, down to millimeter accuracy. But for finding your dog, you probably don't need to be the closest centimeter. Like if you can get within 3 meters, you're going to be fine. So going back to your point of like asking the question of like, what problem am I trying to solve?
Yeah.
If you're trying to find a ship in the ocean, great. You need to be within like 20 meters, or 50 meters. If you're trying to find an ant in an anthill, that's when that kind of
Well, it goes beyond that even because your GPS, that's an expensive radio to run as far as your power consumption is concerned. And so if I lose my car, I don't necessarily need to know within feet where my car is. I just need to know if I left it at school or if I left it at the mall, right?
Yep.
And, I can probably get that without having to really run my GPS radio. And so I may need to use it for different applications at different times, but
big use case is just heavy machinery tracking, right? Or I got a trailer and I want to keep track of that, or even like I got my kid's backpack.
Yeah.
They always forget it somewhere, and as a parent, you don't always remember to pick it up.
And so, what if I can use LoRaWAN to tell the GPS radio to turn on, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't need it unless I lose my kid.
Yeah.
And does that make it a Class C? Like when you're sending?
Not necessarily because you
probably
can follow.
Probably just a bad dad first.
Okay.
Make it
right.
Oh, poor father.
Right. You may get a visit coming up soon. But you can use Class A devices, which Helium doesn't support Class C at this point.
Yep.
But Class Cs will burn through power as well because they're always listening. They keep that receive window open. And a Class A, you just have to follow a downlink to a device, just has to follow an uplink.
Yep.
And so you can have heartbeats from an end node
every 10 minutes or 60 minutes or whatever. Yep.
And so that's the granularity of the downlinks that you can get. So, which is perfectly appropriate for a lot of use cases.
Yeah.
So
I'm seeing Test is asking us the question that we're all kind of looking for is, do I need my own gateway to have a humidity temperature sensor at home as a way of checking my hotspot is working? A gateway to gateway transaction won't really be helpful. Right, because you're hoping that one would beacon and the other would witness or
Is the question to say, how do I verify that my hotspot is actually transmitting data?
Maybe that's it. Yeah.
There's a couple ways you can have a sensor. They have network field testers, which you can then see. Okay, how many gateways are around me that can see this?
Do you guys sell Paul's thing or no?
Yeah.
He has two things. He has a new program, 𝗪𝗶𝘀𝘀, which is a website that also uses the WIO terminal, but it's a different firmware than the field test unit.
No, so we do sell the field test units. Then that's the easiest to use one, right?
The WIO field test units, and then Do you guys
Seed.
have something? Okay, from Seed, and so
Yeah.
you basically they buy the hardware from you, and then they follow Paul's thing, or it comes preloaded.
It's preloaded. You
Okay.
turn it on, you plug it in, and it's just ready to go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then you can tell.
So much
It'll
easier.
tell you, okay, what's the signal strength, and even for network deployers, it's really good to understand what the signal strength is and the coverage is. Actually, do I have it here?
Yeah, I'm thinking like, what do I got here? I got watch him on my phone, but
Yeah, and his handle is Disc91.
Disc91.
Right?
Disc 91.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he great community member. He does a lot for the just IoT and LoRa.
Oh, yeah.
In general.
He's been involved in the community for quite some time.
Yeah.
And not just LoRaWAN. So.
It's this thing. This one doesn't have a battery pack on it, but it's a modular piece.
Yep.
And these are all open source stuff. So if you don't want to pay us and you have these pieces,
Yep.
you could just go set it up yourself, or but yeah, you just power it USB-C, and then you get these charts on here, pretty color graphs, and it says signal strength, and it gives you all the readings. You can get as complex as you want.
That's super cool.
beautiful.
And it's open hardware as well. I
Yes.
I built mine with the RFM95. I don't have those the new LoRa chips.
Of course you did.
Well, it was before
he's
before he had done that deal with Seed, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are super easy to use. I saw something on there like, how do I make money with this? And I think we're going to keep going back to this piece of how do I make money with helium, how do I make money with crypto mining, and that side of it. And I think the answer is really, at this point, you either have a great deployment, which I've got them, they're still not making a ton, right? Like my best deployments are 0.7 HNT a day, maybe a little bit more.
That's not bad, huh?
Or no, it's not bad, but if you just multiply 0.7 by the price of HNT, it's not going to come out to what you want it to come out to as far as earning income. And so the next piece that is super clear that for anyone that's watching is if you want to continue earning money on the network, you're going to have to learn how to use it. That's it. You're not going to be able to put a hotspot out and make 20 grand a month like you could last March, right? Those days gone.
Yeah,
but
we say the passive income is there, right? And but the value of the network grows as more and more people use it, and but then that's also the opportunity that a lot of other people aren't. A lot of people are looking at, but there's also a massive opportunity because now you have a lot of vested people who built out the network who are actually helping to build use cases and solutions and utilize the network as well.
And Nick, you mentioned earlier that setting a hotspot up is the easy part. You just plug it in, and I know that's not the case with the hotspots you put up. You definitely put a little more into.
they're more fun than easy.
than that. But and that's another thing that I've seen is that people who really, get into helium and put a lot into it, and don't just sit on Discord and complain all day.
It turns out okay. For sure.
Tend
Exactly.
to do a little better.
But it's got to be. You got to be proactive on it. Right?
Yeah.
This is no longer because there was a time when you could do a shitty job and put it in the window and you could crush, right? And then you also have to be able to see like, hey, that piece is gone. There's something in here about what farms nowadays are using these sensors. So let's see.
Harvest's got a bunch of them.
Yeah.
All over the world too, not just here in the U.S.
Also, Australia, France, we have deployments in South Africa.
Yep.
New York,
You guys
New
help
York
with
City.
some
We're doing
country,
hydroponic
right?
stuff.
Hawaii or something.
I mean, there was people using
Hawaii.
Hotspot to track, we do a lot of line of sight calculations.
Yeah.
I remember people doing into like Hawaii between like the islands and stuff. And, there's a lot of cool things happening. But a lot of these things like in terms of mining is very personal. Very HODL. I think that's for me it's been my
Is what?
Hold.
whole
Okay. Yeah. Hold on.
until since I started with crypto, I never sold anything basically.
He's smarter than I am.
But you have to remember too, it's like a light bulb that you're operating, right?
Yep.
And it's building this network that over time is going to grow, and the value is going to grow. HIP 51 gives it space to grow much bigger.
Yep.
So, no, the HNT that you're earning, that HNT is going to be valuable with people in the community and companies like yours building on top of it, right? So,
But that's also promising to be careful to like even come close to making. So I think about it is that I think personally at some point HNT is going to be $1,000. That's what I think. That's not
There's
an
no
official
guarantee,
line.
right?
There's no
Yeah.
guarantee of that. And so when I look at a Hotspot today making 0.7 times the current price of whatever is $11, 77 cents, fine. But if I can hold until it goes to 1,000, then I've been making 700 plus a day for over a year. And that, I mean, I've made 700 a day like deploying on anti-piracy ships. That's a lot more work than sitting home and doing almost nothing. 𝗶𝗶𝘀𝗁, you'd asked like specific farms. I've got a couple names off the top of my head, but because they're not my personal projects, I don't want to drop the names out there. It may have seemed that the answer is a little bit evasive, like, oh, there's farms all over the place. But if you really have a question about specific farms, you can email me, nick@grocerygang.com. Or there's Nick Huff up in Boise, Idaho, is working with a couple potato farms and a vineyard farm that my wife Lee and I just went up and saw. Was it 2 or 3 farms? You know, some of them are giant out there. And so a little bit of it is kind of protecting their privacy. But on just one of those farms, we are working on, so we're monitoring a water pump. So how much water is getting pumped up from the river, monitoring how much fuel, how much diesel fuel is in a tank, monitoring how high the potatoes are in a shed. And when I say shed, it's like a gross understatement. I mean, how big was that thing? It was like 3 football fields long and like 60 feet high, and they pile the potatoes almost to the roof.
You need a lot of gravy for that potato.
Yeah, so there's a potato thing. There was soil moisture in different fields. And then there was this story I've told a couple times about how the farmer is currently using irrigation. So he gets up at midnight to get on the fields, you know, be on the field at like by 2 o'clock. So he's driving in from town, gets on the field, turns on one spigot to start irrigation on one field. He's got to go over to the next field and turn on that spigot, but then he's got to run back to the first one to make sure it still has pressure. And then he goes to the third one and turns that on, and has to check the second and the first ones. And he said 3 is as many as he can handle. And so we hear stuff like that. We're like, dude, we can help. And I think that's the exciting piece, is that we're at this point where we're beginning to be able to help that guy get a full night's sleep, right? And so what is that worth to him? What is a full night's sleep worth to a businessman? What is, right? It's worth a lot. And when we talked to him and kind of laid out what 𝗪𝗏 was, and I'll say this, farmers are the most like innovative, inventive, creative, hardworking people I've met as a group of folks. He got it once we saw it, and he's like, I think this can take 50% off my top line cost. So off his number one cost at the farm, he can drop 50% by using this stuff. So, you know, we all kind of look at that. I get little shivers, like, that means there's something there. It doesn't mean it's easy yet. You've got to go out to the farm, you've got to talk to the farm, you've got to ask the questions.
Well, the number one cost is labor.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's labor and fertilizers. Like, oh, yeah, I can cut 50% of my labor. So that's a big deal.
Yeah. But it's taken you and us many conversations to
get there,
right?
Yep.
You know, as people who are generalists in IoT or helium and stuff like that, we assume that we can solve a lot of people's problems. And there's a lot of people who are specialists also in the helium community that are looking for generalists to help them build some of their ideas. So, and we see a lot of that happening in the Discord, right? People saying, "Hey, I've got this idea I need some help with," and a lot of people jumping in to help. And that's,
absolutely.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, you don't see that in a lot of places, especially building hardware and solutions, right? In a space traditionally not built for sharing like that.
Yeah.
That's one thing I've learned from like smart homes and like home automation is that you can't take any of the functionality away. You can make it as tricky as you want, as bells and whistles, but you still need a light switch. You still need to retain that functionality, just the core functionality of how people expect something to work.
Yep. Let's see. Mav is asking. You've asked a couple times, and like guys, there's a tiny little computer. I think you can see it on the camera. Like I'm scrolling through the chat as fast as I can, so I'm definitely not ignoring you. But there's a lot
Love
of
the
questions
engagement,
to ask. Yeah. So can we answer where there's a lot of data being transferred?
That is a hard question.
Yeah, it'd probably be like the kind of data geeks on the Nova side to say, I wonder, can you do
helium
it through,
analytics is probably.
but that's not going to answer where, right? And like that's
no, actually,
that's
you
like
can.
okay.
With I don't have the site offhand, but it actually breaks it down by region on a map using Google's.
And how small of an area can you look at? Is it like down to the acre? Is it down to like a?
Oh no, I think it's region, state.
Okay.
You can see Australia. I don't know.
Yeah. So I think that's like, so talking to this guy Mav is like, dude, that is a business opportunity. If you can make that super clear down to the block of a city where data is being transferred, that is valuable information. And so that the thing that as soon as we start having these conversations about what helium is capable of doing, it's not what helium is capable of doing. It's what are you capable of doing, right? That's where the opportunity is. Like the thing can do almost anything. It's just up to you to figure out how to crush it.
Yeah, there's still a lot of tools to be desired, right? Like even from our perspective, and I'm pretty sure from you guys, it's like, you know,
Yes.
I wish I had my ETL running that I can pull any of these questions up right away. And a lot of people are like, I'm going to do it. And then it's like, but I got to do these other things to still. So,
Yes.
so, you know, if you're asking that question, there's a lot more people asking that same question too. So the data's there, right?
Yep.
Hotspots are transferring data. It's all on chain. If you can pull that data and do the analysis, it's
Yeah, I mean, you know how much each hotspot is making for POC, for data transfer. Try to filter by data transfer. So you know which the hotspots are making the most data transfer, get the geolocation of them, and play around.
Yeah.
Like the data is there, just you got to time.
Yeah.
You just got to sort through it. Okay, so because you know the location of the hotspot, you know how much data they're transferring because that's on the chain. So this is something that
So that you can build like a BI dashboard, whatever, to analyze. So the data is there. It's just
so
a matter
cool.
of
It's like someone's got to sit there and build it.
Yeah, I mean, Hotspot roadmap is already out of control.
Yeah.
We're very excited, but yeah, now we're planning on
Somebody else do it, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're like talking about doing like a multi-protocol hotspot as well.
Nice.
So that's gonna be next steps.
So how are you approaching that? I mean, with 5G, I guess, initially.
So yeah, the 5G, we're spending a lot of time actually talking to a bunch of like experts in the area, trying to understand and learn more about 5G, and trying to figure out what's the best way for us to help you decide where that needs coverage. Also, Helium, I can imagine, is building this as well, like track data, like 5G trackers.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're spending quite a lot of time talking to like there's like Russell from and other people as well to try to figure out, because basically Hotspot, you want to help you deploy the best hotspots you can, either Wi-Fi 6, VPN, I guess it's going to be a bit different, but with the 5G is the new kid on the block and it's a totally different game.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
It's very different. Like LoRa, you can just like, I don't care about anybody else. I'm going to just destroy everybody's transmit scale, but I can put it here and that's it. On 5G, you need to plan a little bit more. You need to have like the certificate, and so we're studying how to the best way that we can add that to Hotspot to teach people, because we want to help. Our main like goal is to help grow the network as good as well as we can.
Yep.
And a lot goes through education, right? Because like the hexagon visualization is something that was built in order for people to realize what's happening, why your transmit scale is going down, what are all the resolutions that are destroying your rewards and everything.
Yep.
And now we're just like, okay, now totally blank slate. Let's start figuring out how can we do this on
Something
5G.
new.
I mean, 5G is still far from being like 100% out there.
Yep.
So we're just trying to like ride along and.
So one thing that popped up we have like a little state of the network channel for the folks who come on and talk there, was that all or many of the folks who are outside of the U.S. are looking to buy the hardware and then say, if you have a location, I'll buy the hardware and I'll split the earnings with you, right? People are so psyched on the 5G stuff. So I think there's like another business opportunity there. If you've got great locations and maybe you don't have the capital, is you partner with folks overseas who can come in and do that, because you can't use 5G, as far as I know, outside of the U.S. yet. So you know, it's just a little bit of an unfair opportunity, but wherever there's an unfair opportunity, there's an opportunity for you.
Another question on that, though, that I wanted to ask you. Being outside of the U.S., I've seen talk on the Discords about people say it's unfair because it's this is something that can only really be used in the States, and so it's an unequal balance for investors in the network. Do you have thoughts on that? Or
Yeah, I mean that's a tough one, because I mean initially people were thinking that Helium is so US centric, but also I would say not necessarily Helium, but also the US as a country is way more fast forward in terms of the regulations to allow these things to happen. CBRS took like I think 10 years to be approved as well. I do think that what Helium is building is going to help fast forward some of the legislation in Europe, for example, and same thing in Brazil. But yeah, I think saying that is unfair it's also unfair.
It's like it's on the government. It's not.
Yeah, it's like you can't stop progress because of that.
Yep.
I mean, there are a lot of times that we're crying because it's so much easier to get hotspots in the US than it was in Europe back then. It is what it is. That's why you're just trying to do the best you can.
Yeah.
Like, I'm in Europe right now, but I'm from Brazil. Brazil, it's 10 times harder than the Europe because
it's super expensive to buy technology.
Yeah, just to have an idea, like import tax is 100%.
Yeah.
So hotspot costs.
Not a typo.
So hotspot costs $400. You're gonna pay $800 plus, of course, the exchange rate. That's like 5 times.
Ouch.
So you can, it's a lot of money for people to deploy those things out there.
Yep.
But in a way, there's a lot of opportunity as well. So Brazil, I just came there. I just came from there yesterday, and I've been in talk with a lot of telco companies there. They are super interested in helium, and they didn't know helium until very recent.
Mm-hmm. Crazy. We
So,
think of it as like everybody knows about helium.
Yeah.
You know, Lee and I are sitting on the plane next to this lady today, and she had no idea about it. So it's like you're still, even though it seems like you're super late, I'd say you're early to right on time.
Exactly.
If you're coming into this thing. Danielle, I'm seeing a bunch of people on here, so thanks,
Did
Ton,
you
for...
get the Weather XM question?
Can we talk about large startups using the LoRaWAN network like WeatherXM? Do you know of any others? Matt Diffie. So, Matt, I think the GeoNet folks are going to try and use helium as well. I don't know that for sure. We were just talking with Mike the other day on a Gristle Crew call, and he had mentioned that, and they have a LoRa antenna on their miners, so I don't see how that won't go down. But as far as large-scale LoRaWAN stuff, what have you heard of?
Synet, isn't it Volvo was like partnering with another company to do their cars? I don't know.
Yeah, that was the Goodyear. They're looking at mobility, but they're not. I think they're looking at everything 5G and LoRa. I don't know exactly what the specifics of that. I just kind of know what I read in those newsletters.
Yeah.
I do know startups looking at using the helium network to help with like location proving stuff, kind of novel ideas of using the network. And then obviously all the traditional stuff too.
Yeah.
But it's so cheap, and you don't need to have contracts set up to use it and build these solutions, right? So
that's the crazy thing we all kind of blast past is you don't need anything to get on the helium network. You buy the sensor, and basically if you can figure it out, you're good.
So there may be a whole bunch of startups building on it that we just don't know about, right?
Yeah.
Hardware's hard, so there may be a lot of stealth stuff going on that we don't know about. So.
Unless they actively tell that they're using it. Sometimes they want to use it as a marketing.
Yeah.
Right.
But they don't have to.
There's this one, guys, if you can't estimate the cost of the use, how can I even try to sell its use? So that's Danielle of Fuccio. Danielle, I think you're just making a mistake. Like, it's really easy to see the cost of data use on a sensor. So just how much they're sending out, how often they're sending out, if it's sending out every 10 minutes or every minute or every 30 seconds or every 5 minutes or hour. And data credits are super cheap, and you basically just do the math.
And they're locked. That's a
They're
fixed
tied to
price.
the dollar.
So,
Yeah, that's important because they're not tied to the price of HNT.
It's not speculative. Yeah.
So that's...
So if you're building a solution, it's just a matter of how often are you sending data, how much data are you sending, and you do the math, and a GPS tracker that costs $10 to $20 today, a standard, will cost on a LoRa network, to the end users like $2 to $5, right, a year or a month or something like that. It's significantly cheaper, depending on like how many layers of people selling the services, right? But if you're just a user at the end of the day, you can be spending like $1 a year.
That's an interesting thing is thinking of it two ways. Is you could be the user and just cut everyone out, not worry about reselling it, use it for yourself, and just have a much cheaper option. Especially if you have a ranch, you just run your own system. You don't wait for someone like me to come knocking on your door and ask you if you need help. Is just do it yourself. But to give an idea of cost, is I accidentally left on my little people counter when we were testing it, and I think it was firing every minute, and I had 2 of them firing every minute for a week and a half, and it was something like $7.
Now, multi-packet buy will factor in there. And so if you have multi-packet turned on, then you don't know how many
hotspots
are going to hear it. And so that could skew.
Don't do that in New York, then.
What's that?
Don't do that in New York.
Oh, yeah, right.
Right, so for folks kind of wondering what multi-packet is that a sensor will send out a packet of data. It'll say, hey, it was 32 degrees Fahrenheit or whatever it was. And the way it works right now is you can set that to say, hey, I want to have only one hotspot I only want to pay one hotspot for that packet of data. So that's I only need to get it once. But if you want to have a bunch of backup, you can say, actually, I want 10 hotspots. Or I want that to be paid for. I want to pay 10 hotspots to get that data. Sorry, I get confused. And so that's that multi-packet piece, is that packet of data is being, you're paying for a bunch of different times just to make sure that you get it. Am I butchering that too much?
Well, it's
close,
not
right?
it's not just for backup, because you also get the associated metadata from each connection, and so you can have a little clearer picture of the radio landscape.
The coverage, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Super cool. Ripping, what else?
But you can limit that and just say, I only want up to 8, for
Yeah,
example.
that's
So you can.
Yeah, and in production, depending on your use case, most general uses would just send it to one hotspot, and you can then calculate how much that solution is going to cost.
Yeah.
Black Ninja, I've seen you talking a little bit of trash here, so I'm gonna be as polite as I can. And I think the thing is, you just didn't know what you're getting into, right? And if you didn't know, I get it, but your ignorance is not kind of a fault of the network. So you're right, I've put 25,000 pounds in, I've got 13 hotspots up, all outdoor antennas, earnings still went from 2.5 to 0.8, you guys talk shit. Here's the problem, dude, is that it's not us that is dialing down the network, it's you that didn't do the research. And I'm sorry, like I know that, I'm sure 25,000 pounds is no small amount for pretty much anyone on the planet, right? I'm sorry you made that gamble and it's not working out for you right now. Like I'm bummed about that, and I'm bummed that is a relationship you have to the network. However, you have an obligation as a business owner, as an investor, and that's what you are when you start investing in mining equipment, is you are an investor. You have an obligation, if you want to be a good one, to be dispassionate, to be educated, and up to date on what's going on. And by that comment, you are none of those things. So I don't like pushing back on people, but I've seen you talk a bunch of trash in this chat, and just wanted to push back on that.
I mean, I see that everybody who does the proper education, like, don't complain about the network, is to try to understand the complexity and how the growth is going to be. Everybody knew that it's going to go down. The times that you're going to make 100 HNT per day in one hotspot is long gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And everybody knew about it. It's just people are like getting, I wouldn't say greedy, but they're expecting the rewards from now by the time they order the hotspots, even though they're going to take some time to arrive.
Yeah. All right, and then we're banning Black Ninja, so you can only take so many poop emojis, dude. you hit the limit. Okay, let's see. What else have we got here? When will GeoNet get listed? I don't know. I talked to Mike the other day. He's kind of figuring that stuff out. We may do some education stuff with him. Yep, seeing dude's burnt out. Gray Hat, I'm seeing you there. He's still working on the PoE splitter and injector. I'm psyched for that thing to come through. Let's see. This guy Daniel Fuccio has got questions about the network and data. Like, what do you guys think of as the reliability of the network if you're using it solely for data right now? Not for earnings, not for POC, not for beaconing. Like, if you were thinking about a large deployment using sensors on the Helium network, where would you kind of place that as like a good bet, a bad bet, maybe not do it, maybe?
Yeah, I haven't really used too much data from Helium as I've been focused more on the deployment side.
Yep.
But I think the problem is anything that's going to happen in Helium is going to happen in any other chain or like other projects as well.
Oh, so it's TTN or Senator.
TTN, even NB-IoT, I think is even worse.
Okay.
Besides, of course, all the bureaucracy that you need to go through.
Yep.
I heard like in Portugal I have Vodafone, and I was talking to someone using NB-IoT, and they said like the dashboard was like unusable and still have to be paying monthly. And
okay.
I think it depends on how critical that infrastructure is.
Sure.
And that's, if this is going to be like life-saving type of stuff, it's not there yet.
Yep.
And even those things require very special contracts with SLAs and
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that, and fallbacks and stuff. But I think Travis has the most real-world experience in massive and bigger deployments. We've got much smaller ones in helping people with pilots and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I mean, you're dead on what you're saying. But LoRaWAN as a whole isn't necessarily appropriate for a lot of critical applications.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
And so, just as a technology, I don't think it's necessarily appropriate. For agriculture, it's awesome. I mean,
Lots of data, big area,
Cheap.
at a
And not
very cheap
critical.
price.
Cheap
Yeah.
data.
In general, yep.
Something that I could throw out in the field and not worry about it for 5 years and just have that feeding a dashboard. And then have machine learning running against, all the data coming in. And
And I think we'll see more consumer-focused stuff, but it's just going to take time to build out and integrate, right? Because for any existing company that migrate, they've got to put some time to test and develop. And any new company in the community that's building stuff, it takes time to build and develop.
Yep.
If you're talking about what's going to be used tomorrow, it's probably going to be a lot of the smart cities and smart buildings and smart agriculture stuff that's already being used, but all private networks. So like a lot of the big companies that have private networks, who say we have roaming contracts, Helium is kind of a network of opportunity for them.
Yeah.
And they've definitely told me that usage and deployments of LoRaWAN has grown up a lot since the Helium network. More people are aware of it. It's a lot easier to sell the concept, and then they're able to now extend beyond their private networks.
Yeah. Specific tool for a specific job, right? It's like I found out about LoRa. I'm like, I'm going to put LoRa on everything. I'm going to track this. I'm going to do that. I'm like, no.
It's not for everything.
It's not for, exactly, right? There's Wi-Fi, there's cellular, there's satellite, there's all these other different pieces. And part of this is this kind of education, whether you do self-education or you take some formal course and figure out where it's going to be a good fit.
Yeah, and a lot of this can coexist.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, you don't want to send pictures through LoRa. I got this, how...
Please don't.
Yeah, you can technically, but it's going to take a while.
Yeah.
Any updates on when onboarding sensors will be user-friendly? As easy as setting up an Alexa?
Soon.
Yeah.
Depends on the product. Depends on...
It depends on you, right? It's like, it's as fast as you can build them. Is that obviously the four of us in this on the camera here, and the two ladies are, like, we're not the only people in Helium. Like, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people. There are engineers, there's software engineers, hardware engineers. There's like it's on all of us to build this thing as fast as we can. And so if you're looking for a hard timeline, this is not a centralized project like Amazon, where they know what is going to happen for the next 2, 6, 8, 12 months, 10 years, etc. Nobody knows what's going on here because it's you that's going to build it. If someone watching this, it's like, dude, I could build that thing. I could do a better job than those guys. Like, go for it.
And if you look at Amazon's Sidewalk, their LoRaWAN is not easy either. So
yeah.
So to answer that question, though, people are working on that.
Yeah.
Lots of different groups and organizations are working on that.
Look at Johan's project, where it uses your phone to over BLE configure an end node. The source is open.
Yeah.
It's on GitHub. You can check it out. You can build it yourself in an afternoon.
Yeah.
And it's a very easy onboarding process where you don't have to recompile your firmware with keys to push down. I can just configure my keys, over BLE from my cell phone.
Yeah, I mean, we have customers and that we're helping to kind of push out these types of products too, right?
Yep.
So like 𝗚𝗿𝗶𝘀𝗀 Farms is going to be doing something like that for cold storage. That's, you don't have to worry about onboarding. It's just you scan it and it works.
Yep.
Track Pack Meals project is exactly that, right? It's a sensor. It's the end user scanning a QR code and it just works. So like I said, people are building these things. It just takes time, and we'll see more of it. Open also with the deployments for schools, STEM programs.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We're working with them to help, to bridge that gap.
Yeah, and on the Discord, like with SensorDev, with the with the RAC, with their Discord, with the C Discords, there's a lot of resources and a bunch of really helpful people.
Yep.
Who would love to help you out on a project you're working on, you're building. Come over to Hacks Happy Hour and we'll talk about a project if you get stuck on something.
Yep. Yeah, you guys all three of you have helped me a ton as I've made my progression through Helium. There's a company, so uplinkengine.com or uplinkengine.xyz is a company I'm involved with that's helping. Like, you'd come to them with a problem and say, hey, can you help me visualize this data? So we're using the People Counter project. They're the ones running the thing for this farm. And the Uplink Engine idea is, hey, we'll just make it easy for you to do your thing. So however you want to come in, whatever data you want to see, however you want to see it, is they're going to help you figure out how to do that stuff. So, there's all kinds of levels. You can be as geeky as these guys and kind of build it yourself and do the whole thing yourself, and that is totally like it's a permissionless network. You can do that. Or you can say like, nope, I want to do the sales side. I'm really good at sales. I'm going to go to farms and figure out what their problem is and then pass it off. There's a bunch of different places to insert yourself into this ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
And we need it all, right? We need everybody building everything. We need
Yeah.
people collaborating and sharing their stuff, and challenges too. There's challenges to all of this stuff. So
Whenever there's a hard challenge, a hard problem, there's an opportunity as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Is there any useful way to report poor manufacturers or vendors? As the network grows, I'm concerned there will be more 𝗪𝗔s, 𝗪𝗵𝘁, etc. At what point will 𝗱𝗵 step in?
I don't know they will, and I'll speak a little bit. I don't want to speak for the MCC, the Manufacturers Compliance Committee, but I'm certainly on there, and this is definitely something we're talking about. So let's kind of sketch out what it looks like fundamentally, and then some of the problems we have to deal with, and then maybe some of the unknowns. So fundamentally is we've got this decentralized network where you want anyone who has the ability to manufacture hotspots. I think they should be allowed to come on and manufacture hotspots, right? So there is a bottom line there where I don't really want hotspots in the network yet that are being sold to the public, that are being made in your garage. That's me personally. Like, I don't think the quality control is there yet. That doesn't mean that those can't be built and built really well by people like Great Hat Guy or by you guys. I mean, Exhibit A is sitting right here and literally showed me how to do that and has done it himself. But as far as like onboarding a bunch of hotspots to the network, that's not really what I'm looking for. So there is some kind of bottom limit, but there's also the whatever kid out of college or young engineer who's got a great idea and who can change the world to have access to change the world through onboarding hotspots to Helium Network. If they got a better way to do it, if they got a better way to run some radio, some compute piece, whatever it is, like I want those folks to have access to it. But I tend to think mostly like a good actor, and there are bad actors in the world. We've seen them come on the Helium Network. And so you have to think on the one side, how do you make it as easy as possible for hotspots to come on while not allowing bad actors to gain access to the network. We saw 𝗪𝗫 come on, and they were, at the very least, deeply involved in institutional gaming. We saw Panther come on, and again, at the very least, deeply involved in institutional gaming. We had Codex had that problem. We're going to have other manufacturers who have that problem. So there's the piece where you can report bad hotspots on crowdspot.io. So that's like the start of it. But there's also some of these things that I'm working on right now. I don't know if you guys have seen the I called it Stop the Effing Gaming hip, but I've been told to dial that back. But it's this idea that if we have a couple different numbers that are orthogonal to each other, that are orthogonal in and of themselves, but if you start stacking them together, they start to make sense. So how many hotspots, like what percentage of hotspots are doing same manufacturer to same manufacturer witnessing? Like how many hotspots do you have in 𝗪𝗫's fleet that are deeper to deeper witnessing and they never witness something else? Okay, that is kind of fishy. But maybe it's not. Maybe you've got a deployment and you're that person that bought 200 𝗪𝗫 hotspots in Alabama or someplace where there's not a ton of other hotspots. Not to pick on Alabama, one of the biggest deployments I've ever done is out of there. I think they had 30,000 hotspots deploying worldwide. But so that by itself is not fishy. But if those hotspots are also not transferring data, if they're also having perfect kind of SNR things, if they're also all perfectly scaled, if you start to stack those things up, and these are the statistics and statistical analysis pieces that have come out of these MCC hearings, is it appears that we could probably stop manufacturers a lot earlier from gaming the network so heavily. So it's definitely on my mind. It's on the kind of mind of folks who are paying attention to it, but there's not a perfect solution right now, and it's not as easy to solve as I would like it.
Now, when you say we could stop this, or we, I mean, because we don't want to have a centralized authority that says, look, okay, this company's out.
Yeah, totally.
There's a lot of smart people in the community doing this analysis and research, and they submit that, right? And I think the idea is to eventually have like a kind of consensus of people making that decision.
Yeah, it's
a slow move to that piece, right?
Super good point. That'll get misquoted, and that's a misspeech by me. When I say we, I think of we as the community. Yeah. But I could easily see you, the listener or watcher, saying we as like we, the MCC, or we thinking that I work for Helium or thinking that I work for Nova, which I don't work for either of those. Like we as the community of a couple 100,000 hotspot owners and interested parties, it's on us to build these things and make them work. So,
yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, Mark Verity, it's not a people's network. It's the people who contribute, help the network to grow network. Yeah. I like that. Any insights for 5G spectrum in Europe? I don't know. Do you guys have anything?
Just what I read on the news, and I think that discussions about it, maybe.
Yeah, it's gonna take a while. I think for the discussion that I had with different manufacturers and different people, I think it's more likely to have Wi-Fi 6E in Europe over 5G. Because one problem they have right now that Helium is trying to solve, as far as I know, is what's the word I used to, when you're driving and you're connecting different antennas, the handoff times are like insane right now. Okay. So I think it's a hard problem that they still need to fix. It maybe more tribes than me on this one. And because Wi-Fi 6 is already like a much more mature protocol in the sense, so the handoffs are less seamless. So,
and for people out there, Wi-Fi 6 is also part of the mobile stuff, right? It's not just pure Wi-Fi like on your laptop, but a lot of like mobile devices will use Wi-Fi and 5G and stuff, and you don't even realize that it's actually switching between these things.
And that's a protocol that's already approved everywhere in the world. Mm-hmm. So you can go to Amazon and buy like a Wi-Fi 6 router for your house, but then people can start setting up like Wi-Fi 6 for Helium. And I don't think it's out there yet, of course, but that's going to be, I believe, the solution for everywhere. Because you don't necessarily need to have 5G with CBRS. Mm-hmm. You can have Wi-Fi 6, which is already working in Europe, already working in South America, Africa, whatever.
And HIP-51 enables that.
Exactly. So from the HIP-51 to like the other HIPs, I strongly believe that Wi-Fi is going to be the solution over 5G. Because 5G is in the end is like, I think it's a lot of the name as well. Like people are like, oh, I have 5G on my phone. Even though most of the time you're not connected to even your phone says 5G, it's not necessarily 5G actual connection that you have there. So it's a lot of marketing behind it. So if you can actually connect to a Wi-Fi, which actually works very well, as far as I know, then I think that's going to be the
5G embeds all of those different technologies into one thing, right?
So it's the fifth generation of the whole spectrum sharing piece. I'm seeing questions about how long we're going to go. We'll probably wrap it up pretty soon. Jeremy, so you're talking about who's kind of responsible for doing going back to this MCC thing. Sophie from the MCC is coming on Monday for our next live, and we'll just dive into it more there. You'll get more access to it. I want to mostly keep this I meant to keep most of this focused on what's going to happen here at Consensus.
What's Consensus again? I forgot. Yeah.
So we've got. So with that, we've got a couple things going. Tomorrow there is from 4 to 5 p.m. There's a Helium talk in Consensus.
Yeah.
I think it's in the afternoon tomorrow. There's also a Helium happy hour.
Yeah, that's true. After that happy hour.
That's at 4.
Yep. And then Saturday all day at Helium House, there's just a nonstop agenda for talks. I'll be moderating one of those talks. Daniel's on that one. There's another one with a couple folks in the smart ag space and the drone space. What was the third one? They're going to kill me because I don't remember it.
There's 3 floors worth of presentations.
That's insane.
It will be live streamed on the YouTube channel for Helium. So.
And I think I'm going to try and sneak in a live stream, although that may or may not work. So let's see if we can get this set up going again. Pay attention to that stuff because I think there's one question in here, like, is it worth it to put a hotspot out now? If you're looking solely for lots of passive income, no, it's not worth it. If you're looking to grow a network, then yes, it could be.
And honestly, I'm a huge fan, like I said earlier, of those Draginos. And if you want to learn about LoRaWAN and you want to see like logs, coming off of the gateway, then those Draginos are great. They've got a web interface. They're easy to set up.
I think I broke mine, so I may have to come to you to
fix it. You broke it, huh? Yeah.
It's not working. It's showing up on my wallet, but I can't transfer it and I can't do anything with it.
But they retail at what, $120 US, I believe.
Super cheap.
Yep.
Yeah, I forget what they are.
Cheapest way to get in.
They're great products, and they pass data fine. Yeah. If you want to learn about them, you're probably going to learn more on a Dragino than on another manufacturer of a hotspot. As far as learning more about LoRaWAN.
Yeah, if you really want to nerd out.
Yeah.
Unless you set up your own data only with Raspberry Pi, the concentrator. You can use Balena, for example, and then you can check out the logs and everything.
Yep.
So that's the second level, right? You start with that, and then it moves to like a Dragino.
Yep. No, it gets super geeky super fast.
It's fun.
All right. I'm still looking at this other stuff.
But check out Gateway RS as well over on GitHub.
Yeah.
All right, I'm seeing people asking for info and the details. So it's parleylabs.com, and then hotspotty.net, and gristleking.com, and then
Nova-Labs.
Nova-Labs.xyz.
.com.
Is it .com?
Yeah, yes, email servers were not liking XYZ domains, TLDs.
I had that issue.
Yeah, so got to a point we couldn't even mail to each other within the company. So,
Yeah.
all right.
Can't do that. Okay.
Yeah,
Can't
XYZ
afford
is still
domain.
in place, so you can mail to that as well.
The $2 a month, a year domains. I mean, the first Hotspotty domain was hotspotmanager.xyz, and I remember I had a bunch of issues with the signups. And that's why like it became, okay, what's the cool name? And Hotspotty. Okay.
Yeah.
Hotspotty started it.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what we're going to see like by Christmas of this year. Like, what's the landscape going to look like in Christmas? I think that's as far forward as we can reasonably predict, and we're still going to be wrong. You know, it looks.
Yeah, that's. I mean, it seems so far away, but this whole year's gone by really quickly too. So,
Yeah.
No kidding.
We see sensor usage growing, so I think we'll see more use cases. We'll see more collaboration.
Yep.
We're seeing a lot of people who are saying, "Hey, how can we work together?
Yep.
How can we help each other?" We see a lot more of that, at least on our end.
Yeah.
I mean, in Hotspot, we're going to continue building, focusing on helping people deploy the best hotspots they can. I can't promise the 5G is going to be ready by then because it depends on a lot of factors, but we're working as hard as we can to also follow Helium and maybe other projects as well. Let's see what happens.
Other projects, huh? I like it. Yeah, it's super curious to try and think, is it like as the Hotspotty business, what you guys are going to do? And it seems like there is a giant opening in the sensor side. Is it you guys already have the platform? You already understand the mapping piece. You already understand kind of what people want because you've had so much feedback with all these folks coming on. Pretty cool spot to be in because it's a software piece as well.
Definitely. I mean, we're looking at expanding the company now because we're just like extremely small team.
Yeah.
Um,
It's getting big. Every time I see it, there's someone new on the team. They're like, "Hey, I'm from Hotspot." I'm like, "Hey, welcome."
yeah, exactly. I mean, it was like basically me and Max and Alexis in the beginning just working all day.
Yep.
And then realized that, okay, we need to hire some people. And then our eyes are getting bigger. Like, okay, there's so many cool things that we're going to build, but only 24 hours in a day.
Yep.
And you still need to sleep a couple hours. So then we decided, okay, now actually, let's see what we can actually grow because we want to start doing like sensors, like Omni protocols as well, maybe other things. We're still defining, but
yeah,
roadmaps is exciting.
Learning to say no is hard.
I can't.
Yeah,
I'm a yes man. Let's just fucking do
we'll
this.
get it. We'll figure it out.
I think the community marketplace or for integrations is going to be. I think we're going to see some cool things come out of that.
Yeah.
I think that with console kind of opening up, where more people are running their own console, we're going to see that rolled into offerings. On some platforms where that may be used. I don't know in conjunction with, okay, if you don't want to worry about data credits, you don't want to worry about console, then we'll handle that for you. And
we'll see more of that.
We run console router. I think we're going to see a lot more of that.
Yeah.
Before Christmas.
Cool. Well, a lot of good stuff to look forward to.
Exciting.
Ripping, guys. I'm gonna close it down, and I'll see. Lee, is there anything else that we missed? I can see we missed a ton of chat stuff, but when will the validators be up to date? Unknown. Aren't they up to date now? I haven't paid attention to it.
There was a notification today about some software update.
Yeah. Well, I think all this like software update stuff it's like a reason to go outside and do something else and build on the network, right? Is that like let the Helium team that is doing that stuff, and the Helium Foundation, the Nova team, like just let them crush it. They're working for you. Don't worry about it.
Or if you want to watch them, I mean, the fishbowl.
Or you can watch them, yeah.
That's up. I think hopefully that's been a positive thing.
Yeah.
You get to see them chit chat about things and how hard they're working, right? And then they're not just managing that chat; they're also managing engaging with the community to help them solve some of those problems.
I've seen Amira on a lot more lately.
It is amazing what the team and the community and how they're interfacing with each other are.
Yeah.
When you watch
Amira's a machine, man. He's
It's incredible, yeah. Because I remember in the beginning when I first came in, there's whatever 7,000 hotspots. He'd come on and be like, "Oh, that's pretty cool. That's the CEO. He's coming on. And there's 7,000 people. Now there's 800,000, and I'm still seeing him
still there?
come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you
Not going
multiplying? Are
anywhere.
you duplicating? What's going on?
Last question: are validators gone under HIP 51?
Validators are not gone under HIP
That's it.
51.
Celeste?
It'll change. They'll change forms across the different sub-DAOs, if I'm understanding that correctly. But no, the need for that is not going to go away. So it'll have to be solved in some way.
Yeah.
All right, and on that happy note, ripping.
All right,
Thanks for having us, man.
Consensus. Thanks for coming on, fellas.
Thanks, guys.
And broad.